Hey everyone, it's James Wagley here, and welcome to the 200th episode of
Hey,
the Mortgage Broker Acceleration Podcast. And I've got Mr. 200 with me in the black corner. How are you, Ash?
only time I ever scored 200 not out was in the backyard against my 10-year-old neighbours when I was 15. So it wasn't a fair contest. But other than that, fantastic to get 200. Who would ever have thunk it, hey?
Exactly. So, listeners, this is almost 4 years of Ash and I doing these weekly podcasts for you for free to better the industry, right? And hopefully you have watched a number or listened to a number of these 200. We've loved making every single one of them. So hopefully that you found these valuable. And today's episode will be no different. We're talking today about the one person that all brokers should hire, but virtually none do. And listeners, you're probably thinking, it's a loan processor or it's a parabroker, etc. Right? Actually, I'm sure people are thinking already ahead. They know the answer. What would you think brokers are thinking, Ash, right now?
Oh, no doubt. Most brokers think about hiring a person to help them be less busy. So it's that sort of, I need to hire someone to take the pressure off. There's not a lot of strategizing beyond that. So there's no thought given to the personality or the yin and yang of different to them. It's just, I'm busy, I'm a bit overwhelmed, I need help. That's the general lead up to hiring someone.
Yeah, listeners, there's two types we see, right, Ash? There's the I'm so busy that I just need help and I better figure it out. I better get some support. And brokers do that in lots of different ways. Sometimes they're really busy and they go, oh, I need another broker. Other times they are smarter and they think, well, I need to cut up the process and get a loan processor or a credit analyst, et cetera, if they follow our methodology. So that's one way where they hire is because they're under the pump. What's the other way? I've completely forgotten, blanked.
Well, I mean, people tend to be drawn to people like them mostly. Like I certainly made that. I'm going to call it a mistake, right? But when I was very early on building a business, you tend to hire people from your friend circle, from your family circle, or from your network that you like. You get on with them. You've got a relationship. That's often how people hire people because they like them. Now,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with liking. It's a pretty important ingredient. You're not going to hire people you don't like generally, right? So liking someone is important, but there's also equally, if not more important factors that should be considered. So to answer your question, James, certainly it's the way my first hire was my brother-in-law. My second hire was my sister. My third hire was my best friend. So guilty as charged, Your Honour.
yes, indeed. So people hire their people they know. And the other thing is, you said it, I think they hire like a mini them. Uh, you know, I'm a broker, I'm busy. Well, now I've got too many customers to take care of. I better get another broker. So we see lots of uh, mistakes made. Now, but the one person that all brokers should hire, now it's not necessarily one particular person, it's a particular way of thinking. And it's what you mentioned before, Ash, and listeners, it's this concept of yin and yang. And we all know the yin balances out the yang, they meet perfectly, together and around each other, right? So, um, unfortunately, what happens is we mostly hire people like us. We look to duplicate people like us instead of look to hire people that can fill the voids and the weaknesses that we have. And there's lots of ways we can probably talk about this in this episode, Ash. Examples of where this comes into play. I'll kick it off with the first one. For example, incredible business development style mortgage broker, the sort of person that can build relationships without breaking a sweat, can talk to people and convert customers with their head underwater. People just love them. The phone rings. People want to do business with them. They can forge relationships and get business in the door easily. That type of person, from experience, is usually not very good with building out systems and process and details and things like that. They're often not great as leaders because they're so busy just going out and being amazing at the front of the ship. So that person should hire somebody completely the opposite to them, somebody that is, wants to dive into detail, loves process and technology, wants to figure it out, doesn't want to be at the front of the ship, doesn't want to talk to people, just wants to be behind the scenes building and making things efficient and leading out a great team. That's one example. I don't know if there's a easier way of explaining the yin and yang relationship other than just with a bunch of examples, because
Well,
it's not one particular person for each instance.
yeah, as we explore this topic, I think the main thing that I would encourage any of our listeners to focus on is thinking differently about how you go about this. So instead of instinctively, because we're all instinctive creatures, we tend to keep doing what we already know, which is hire people that make you feel good about yourself, which is generally people like you, right? So we do tend to do that instinctively, to your point, James. So a different thinking pattern would be to go, you know what, before I go to the marketplace for whatever role, have a think about what I enjoy doing, what I don't enjoy doing, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I get excited about doing and what I get a little bit depressed about doing. And I think for the majority of brokers, most of them are motivated by the creative side, the entrepreneurial side, which is the front of the machine, the rainmaker, the hunter and gatherer. Not all, but that's quite common. And they do, I think when you get into this industry, you do have to do everything. Like you start out, it's your natural way. I'm good at rainmaking, knocking on doors, getting business, and I'm learning to do everything on the production line. So what ends up happening is when you come to hire people, instead of separating yourself and focusing on just what you're good at and hiring somebody to do what you have been doing, but you're not actually enjoying doing, people tend to just hire people that reflect their own attitudes and are similar to them. So I think go into this with thinking about, well, what are the areas of this entire ecosystem that I'm not good at? I don't like doing it. It takes a lot to admit what you're not good at too, by the way. It's easy to intellectualize it, but I think to actually bring that into the discussion, and I would challenge all of our listeners, next time you're thinking about hiring or writing a job ad or interviewing people, have a mindset of, well, what is it that I don't like doing? Find out from them if they like doing that. Like people will put all sorts of things on their resume, right? But what you want to find out through your interrogation or your sneaky questioning is, do they actually enjoy doing the things that you don't enjoy doing? That's the yin and yang, right? And I think that applies across the business, whether it's your production line people, you know, if you want a BDM, even when you hire brokers, to your point, James, I think it's one of the most common mistakes I see is brokers hiring other brokers that are similar to them, i.e., they're all entrepreneurial or they're all operators. You know, you've really got to decide, what is it that I need in my business that I don't enjoy doing? Okay, I don't enjoy doing the detail and putting together files, but I'm really good at feeding the machine.
Yeah.
Great. Don't hire other people that feed the machine, right? Hire people that like turning the raw material into a product, right?
Yeah.
That is a fundamentally simple, but also commonly overlooked thinking or way of doing it.
That's true. That's kind of, we're talking about yin and yang and, hire the yin to your yang. Well, do you even know what the yang is? Like who most people don't actually know. Like, what am I really amazing at? What are the things that I'm not? And that's probably the biggest part of this, right? Isn't it? We're saying you need to hire the yin to your yang, but if you don't understand yourself or are real with yourself, you'll make the mistakes. And for example, there are a lot of brokers that are actually amazing, and we've probably talked about this in previous episodes, but lots of brokers that are amazing technically. They're great with people, as in the current clients in front of them. They can help people get amazing outcomes, but going out and forging relationships from cold and driving leads and going networking and putting themselves out there is kind of like some brokers can't stand that. They're happy to work with referrals and the client in front of them, and they're amazing at it. There's not a chance they can build a relationship with a referral partner in the way other people can. So
Worse than that, James. Let me just
uh,
add before you go on. Like, it actually can be worse than that. There's plenty of brokers out there who think they're good at building relationships, and they'll get out there and have a go, but they're not very good at it. In fact,
yeah,
not naming any names, but I was having a conversation with a broking business recently where they've got 2 or 3 people in their sales force who are textbook operators. You put them in front of clients who have an interest in doing something, they'll close the deal 100 times out of 100. But you send them out into the jungle, forge relationships and bring business in, they're a fish out of water. But the biggest problem is they don't recognize it. They think they were good at it, and they're going out there and they're having the conversations and they're not generating any business, and they're wondering why. It's because you've put people into an environment that is foreign to them, that they're not good at, that they don't enjoy, and that's showing up in the results. So sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to add to that a lot of brokers think they're good at it and will go and do it, but then won't get any results and wonder why, right? Because you're actually not very good at it. Sorry.
No, I'm glad that you interrupted, because that's a harsher truth than what I was talking about. So that's 100% agree with that. Now, I want to bring something up Ash, for a lot of our listeners, because the subject of today, the one person all brokers should hire, but none virtually do. This brings up the conversation of, well, a lot of brokering businesses can't actually afford to hire the person that they need. So, for example, let's say I'm real with myself and I know, you know what, I don't understand technology and systems and detail. I'm just incredible at building partnerships and bringing in the deals. I can talk to people all day. Can I afford an operations manager or a systems expert to come and sit there, build out my CRM or my templates, manage my team with and for me? All of those things I'm not great at. A lot of brokers might not be in the position to afford that. So, what do they do? My default would be, let's say I'm a broker. I'll get your opinion on this too. Let's say I'm a broker and I know that I'm amazing at the front of the ship. I can build relationships. I can speak, present. The phone just rings. People want me. But when it comes to figuring out process and efficiency and building out a team and leading the team and building out systems, skill set and care factor, don't want to do it. Let's say that's me. And I know there's a lot of listeners that are just like that. Let's say I'm early on in my career and I recognize that about myself. I would go and partner with somebody that has that skill set and give them a slice of my business. Like, there are a lot of brokers that are banging their head up against the wall, trying to be this magical triple, quadruple threat. The person that can bat, can bowl, can field, can run 100 meters in 10 seconds. It doesn't exist, right? And brokers are trying to be that person, and they end up owning 100% of not much for a lot of effort. Whereas if they just went, you know what, if I'm going to have any hope of building a great business that can give me the life I want with the income, etc., I'm going to need to find that fundamental yin to my yang. And if I can't afford to pay them, then I'm going to need to give them a percentage of my business. Or if I go, you know what, I know for sure that I'm amazing with systems and detail and building out process, and I can write loans, but I don't want to have to go out and feed them, like get fed. I don't want to have to hunt. I don't want to have to network. Then partner with somebody that can be your front person, be your BDM, be partly the face, go and chase business and relationships and do a deal with them, so that's all they do all day, every day. You write the loans. The problem is, what most brokers will do is they'll just hire another person just like them, and it falls into a heap. So that's my very basic perspective of the one person they should hire. I think it actually does come back to this. You're either in sales or you're in process, and you can't be in both, and you should focus on one and hire or partner with somebody else that can bring the other element of the cheese, so to speak.
Yeah, work out whether you're a driver or a mechanic. And I think most brokers think they're pretty good at both. And some of them are. So this is the other extension of that, James, is just because you can do both doesn't mean you should. right? So even if you are okay, like me, for example, or using my own backstory, I was pretty good one-on-one, pretty good with putting loans together, understanding credit and making sure loans got approved. So I sort of forced myself out of my comfort zone to go and build relationships and win business. It was very painful, but I became pretty good at it over time. But I think looking back, I probably would have done things differently. And I think for me, probably the most important hire ultimately would have been either a business partner or someone on contract, or maybe a consultant, or maybe a revenue share, or maybe a combination of all of that leading to equity if everything works out. Like, it doesn't mean you have to give people a bit of business up front. It can be triggered based on results,
Yep.
right? There's ways to do that. We can talk to you about that at another time. But I would have got somebody in there who can sit at the back of me and put a system and a structure in place to process the business. So for me, you know, irrespective of where you are in your business, find someone, and this is most brokers, I would argue, not all, but most, is they are okay at the front end, pretty good at the front end, or fantastic at the front end. But really, that's what they got into the industry for, because I want to be at this front end. If you're not good at the front end, let's be frank, you're probably working for someone else. You know, if you can't generate your own clients, you're probably working for someone else who feeds you the business, right? Um, so most brokers working for themselves are competent, if not excellent at that. So the most important hire for me is someone to come in on contract to set up your tech platform, your workflow, your system, and your automation, and connect it all up. But that bit there, if you've got to spend 10 or 20 grand on that over a 3 or 4 month period, that is, you'll get that back 10 times over, in my opinion. Now, is a startup broker got 10 or 20 grand to spend? Not necessarily, although I would argue in most businesses you invest capital in getting yourself set up. So that would be my takeaway, James, is you know, to get somebody to set up the machine on your behalf. And I think we come into this with we probably intersect with this with a lot of the people we work with that need to do this, need to get it done, right? And some do it really quickly, and some it takes forever, because fundamentally they're pushing themselves along a pathway that's not natural for them. And I give a lot of credit to those people. They work hard, they take on board the coaching and the instructions, and they get it done. But I think one of the other options that you can probably consider is, you know what? I know what I've got to achieve. I know where I need to be. I know where I'm at. The gap is this. I'll pay someone else to come in and do it for me.
Yep. Yeah.
Much, much more cost effective ultimately, and keeps you on the sort of the balcony of the dance floor rather than stuck down there trying to continue to do it all yourself. That's just my general advice around this space. As the most important person to hire is to get everything set up inside your business, so that feeds into hiring people, it feeds into capacity, it feeds into productivity, it feeds into forecasting. And the quicker you can get that done, the better.
I agree. And what you said before, I just want to double down on again, because you said something along the lines of, you know, building a business is not easy. There's a lot of moving parts, yet one person trying to do it all, like trying to deliver and get clients and help clients, but also build a business, that's like, it's 3 jobs, or it's more than 2 jobs. And a lot of people are just trying to do that solo. And you wonder why it's so slow. Some of the most successful stories that we have and case studies of clients, especially the ones that do it relatively quickly, are always dynamic duos. They say, Ash, like those that have had partnerships, you know, in some way or form, invariably go a lot faster. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in business. So one person or broker should hire, but virtually none do. Yes, it's the yin to your yang. It's understanding what you're amazing at and not trying to be everything. And it's about, I guess, understanding, how you can free up more and more time to be doing exactly what you're amazing at all the time, and not everything else. That's kind of the crux of this episode, Ash. It's a little bit of an anticlimax, relatively simple thought, but again, virtually no brokers do this, and I think it's a big wake up call.
It's always hiding in plain sight, right, James? It is, and I think that's one of the really key deliverables. I think when we work with people is really helping them to understand this and make the right decision, right? It's very hard to work this out in your own mind when you're in, the cut and thrust and push and pull of all the dynamics of running your business, the clients, the team, the industry, the lenders, the legislation, the media, the this, the that, your family. All of this is going on around you. You're spinning 10 different plates. You're like a decathlete, right? I mean, a decathlete's got to be excellent at 10 different sports, right? There's not many of them around, right? Most people are good at one or two things, and they complement that with other people that are good at those things. So that's a great deliverable from a good coaching and strategic relationship, is to identify that and help understand who you are and who you need and make that right decision.
Exactly. There's lots to it. Well, we'll probably leave it there, Ash. It's probably the sort of concept we continue talking about and giving lots of examples. But I think, for our listeners, go back, listen to this again, pick the eyes out of it, and, think strategically about the future of your business and how you're going to get there the fastest, easiest way possible based on your skill set and what's missing as well. So this has been episode 200. It's been our pleasure. I was going to say over the last 4 years, not quite 4 years, Ash. I mean, it's 52 weeks a year. But 200 is a way more interesting number than 208. So we're going to celebrate 200. It's been our pleasure making every one of these for you guys. So hopefully you continue to listen, and we will continue to make them. So onwards and upwards.
We love it, James, and we love it, listeners. There's only one depressing aspect of that, and that is we've got to start at 201 next week. But hey, we'll start the climb to 300. See you next week.
That's true. It's a lot easier starting at 201 than 1. So, yeah. Have a great week, listeners, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week for another episode. So stay cool until then. See you, Ash.